Okay, hey guys, today we're going to be doing a story called Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. He used to be in a prison, and in the prison, he wanted to know what made humans tick and stuff. So he wrote this novel. It's about what goes on inside a murderer's head, and that murderer in our story is someone called Rome. Wait, Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov, which is a very Russian name. By the way, this is a Russian novel, so this is why the names are more foreign. Okay, so Romanovich Raskolnikov was a broke college student who dropped off. He was handsome but kind of poor. Okay, and he decided to pawn items one day to a woman, a very greedy pawnbroker called Alyona Ivanovna, and yeah, she was very greedy and picky about the things she got, and barely gave any money. Like one time, she gave Raskolnikov not even 1 ruble, and he got very mad and annoyed from that. Okay. So he started having these thoughts about killing this woman, but he was like, wait, that's kind of morally wrong and stuff, so I shouldn't probably do this. But he overhears some people in a bar validating his idea of killing her, and they were like, that pawnbroker is so greedy, if she was better, she would be better off dead. And Raskolnikov overhears this, and this is what moves him to make the move and kill her the next day or something. Okay, he meets someone called Marmeladov, who is a very very bad person. He talks to him in a bar and stuff, and Raskolnikov just talks to him anyway because he's drunk. Okay, the next day he goes over to the pawnbroker's place, and he asks her if she has any people over or if she's gonna be alone, and she says that's none of his business, but he decides to take the shot anyway and kill her. So later that day, he goes over to her place and hands over a fake thing to pawn, and while the pawnbroker's getting the money ready, he lashes out with a huge axe and starts killing her aggressively. And then her sister Lizavieta, right? Okay, she walks into the murder, and she tries to run away, but Raskolnikov catches up and kills her. Okay, now he's actually after this very very scared and realizes what he has done. By the way, Raskolnikov kind of has a superiority.
Inferiority
No, superiority.
complex.
Yeah, superiority complex, guys. Yeah. He has that, and he thinks that means he thinks he's better than other people for some reason, even though he hasn't even done any good achievements in his life, but he still thinks this anyway. It's just his mindset. Okay, and then
Like Napoleon.
yeah. Yeah, something like that. That's Dostoevsky's ideal for him. But we'll see what happens in the end, okay? After that murder, he is low-key very, very shocked from that. He was like, oh wait, this doesn't feel right at all. I thought I would be fine doing this. Those people said, right? She's better off dead, but yeah, he's still obviously very traumatized from this, So yeah. Okay, he goes home and immediately makes sure there's no blood stains all over his clothes, and he immediately trashes the evidence. He barely gets out of there without anyone seeing him. Okay, the news spreads all over the place the next day and stuff. Okay, and there's this detective called Porfiry who's onto the case. And Raskolnikov basically dislikes him because obviously he's trying to find a killer, and that's the least thing he would want right now. Okay? He also meets someone called Sonia, who's a prostitute and has to help her family of a lot, and it's just with that one job. But she's actually a very kind-hearted person and close to God, even though the pawnbroker has a more ethical job but she actually isn't that close to God at all, and she just does this to seem like a good person, okay? But Sonia is genuinely a good person, okay? So Raskolnikov meets Sonia, and Detective Porfiry questions people about the murders. By the way, Raskolnikov has a friend called Razumihin. He's a very nice person. He's also a broke college student from the college Raskolnikov studied in, and he's a very, very loyal and trustworthy friend. Okay? So, Porfiry decides to question Raskolnikov about the murders. Wait. And, he seemed very nervous, okay? Like, the day before that, he was going to the police office, to confess to his crime, but he doesn't wanna face the consequences of his actions, so he decides not to confess, obviously, okay? And then the next day, he falls ill, and his friends treat him, and then when he wakes up, the first thought he has is if he confessed in his sleep or when he was drugged, and he was very scared, but to his surprise, fortunately, he didn't. But Porfiry was on to him. He didn't trust a word Raskolnikov said, but unfortunately, there was a lack of evidence, so Porfiry couldn't just arrest him with just his gut feeling. So yeah. Sonia talks about Raskolnikov overhears about the murder and stuff, and he overhears that Sonia was a close friend of the sister of the pawnbroker, which made Raskolnikov feel some sort of guilt, because the sister didn't do anything and stuff. Okay, so Raskolnikov has a mother and a sister called Dunya, and Dunya is going to get married to someone called Luzhin. Luzhin. Luzhin is a government official, and he's pretty wealthy, but Raskolnikov doesn't want Dunya to be with him at all costs because he seems like a pretty bad person. But Dunya says she kind of only does this for the money and also because she loves him. But I'm not really sure. Okay. So Raskolnikov goes through many attempts of trying to confess to the murder, but he just doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to face the consequences of his actions. He thinks about his family, but this is slowly killing him inside because keeping this very horrible secret of being the one who murdered the pawnbroker, it just makes him it makes him go crazy because the first thing he thinks about is if he got caught or not, if there's any evidence that he left that would make him go to prison and stuff, okay? He literally, every time the interviewers interview him to question about the murder, he faints, falls ill, and he doesn't recover after a couple of days, which makes this police very, very suspicious. After that, Raskolnikov falls into a nightmare, and he thinks about he dreams about something bad happening to him, and he thinks this is real life, which makes him even more traumatized and stuff. And then he eventually wakes up from that horrible dream, and Razumihin is there sitting beside him, and he's asking if he's okay, and he's did I say anything in my sleep perchance? And Razumihin's no, why are you acting so weird about this murder? And Raskolnikov's oh, it's nothing, it's just very saddening, there was a close friend of Sonia who died and stuff. Okay, there was also a doctor who has been visiting him and checking on him since it was apparently that guilt made him so sick it got that bad, wait.
How could he justify the murder before?
Before? How he could justify it?
Just to gain wealth.
Oh yeah, he at first he did this, for like to get the money, and just, he overheard people saying that she was better off dead anyway, like it wouldn't really matter if she died, right? But like that's kind of morally wrong, and the pawnbroker necessarily didn't do anything that bad to get killed. So yeah, that's what Raskolnikov believes that justified the murder, but then, maybe eventually he'll think about it, but we'll get to that part, okay? Okay, so wait. Okay, there's a detective that was also visiting him when he was asleep, who is called Zamyotov. Yeah, Zamyotov. He has been noticing Raskolnikov's actions, his body language, and he is for sure that he's the murderer. Uh, he starts to like do tricks on him that make him think he's the murderer, and Raskolnikov is like very taunted by his taunting, because he's like giving subtle hints that he knows Raskolnikov is the murderer, even though he has no evidence, but he's just very sure. And Raskolnikov's like, why do you keep doing this to me? I've had enough. I'm not the murderer, right? And he's like, are you sure? But then suddenly someone bursts into the room and confesses to the murder, and everyone was pretty shocked because honestly there was no evidence that linked to him at all, and that doesn't explain Raskolnikov sweating, getting sick immediately after being interviewed. Like that just didn't make sense at all. So they took the guy anyway because I guess it was a confession, right? That's all they need. Okay, and Raskolnikov was like, phew, I got out of this one, but not yet. It still taunts him even though he got away. He's given multiple chances to be in peace, but he just doesn't accept it. Like the guilt is just very heavy for him, and like, okay, Sonya's a very important character in this story because she's like one of the few people who have shown kindness to Raskolnikov in this story, and she kind of slowly teaches him how to be a better person and stuff. Wait. Yeah, he like almost impulsively says to Zamyotov that he's the murderer, but like he just always has these stops that make him rethink his actions, and he's like, is this really the best option for me? Like I could be in jail right now, but if I don't say it, I'll just be roaming the streets free with no charges. But if he did confess to the murder, all the weight on his back would be eventually lifted, even though it means he'd be in prison for a long time. But if he doesn't say it, it's still a very heavy burden to carry. Okay. Raskolnikov returns to his apartment and eventually sees that his mother and sister are there, waiting for him. They're surprised to see Raskolnikov in a very long time, and he doesn't look the best in his state. Okay? He becomes annoyed with them, because like he just can't handle anything right now after all that, and he kind of wants to request them to leave, but at the same time that would be kind of rude. And he also commands Dunya to break her engagement with Luzhin, and he explains that he's a bad person, he's a government official, and he just doesn't like that for her. But someone called Razumihin eventually falls in love with Dunya, and that's Raskolnikov's other friend. Okay.
Dunya's sister.
Yeah.
What makes this book very popular?
This book is very popular because it digs deep into the minds of a murderer. Yeah. And all the guilt they carry, after they commit their crime. And he's like observed this for a really long time in prison and stuff. Yeah.
The author?
Yeah, the author. He was by the way, this novel wouldn't exist if he actually got hanged on that day, but luckily he got spared and he was able to live to write this story.
The author.
Yeah, the author. Who's the author? Wait.
Fyodor.
Fyodor Dostoevsky. Yes, he's Russian. Yeah. Okay. So Raskolnikov goes in a bar and he confesses to the murder to someone. And someone called Sonia overhears. She's very shocked at this because she thought Raskolnikov was a nice person, and she was shocked at this, but she's very forgiving to Raskolnikov and encourages him to go to the police office and confess to the murder, and she confronts him about it the next day. Raskolnikov is shocked at this, and he eventually tells Sonia everything about it, and he's like, yeah, I couldn't hold this in for much longer, I just had to say it to someone. And Sonia is very understanding about it, even though he did commit a very terrible crime, but she is understanding about it, and she encourages him that it would be the best option for him to just go to prison at this point, and if he does confess to it, he gets a lighter sentence. Raskolnikov thinks about it. He's walking to the police office, looking back, realizing how different his life would be if he did actually move on with this decision. But he sees Sonia and thinks about her, and he's like, you know what, I have to do it anyway. Like, it's time to stop this whole facade and stuff. Okay, so he goes to the office and he confesses to everything he's done. He's now sent eventually to a prison in Siberia, where he lives the rest of his days. But luckily, Razumihin and Sonia moved there with him because, you know, they're his friends and stuff. And his mother and sister are also probably gonna visit him a lot as well. Raskolnikov realizes that this heavy weight has been lifted, and he eventually becomes a more understanding person, and his superiority complex has kind of, you know, lightened up a bit because of Sonia, mainly, you know, because he wanted to be like a good example for her and stuff. And yep, this is the end of Crime and Punishment, and I still want to add some more details like about the story and stuff. There's this thing called nihilism, yeah, and that's kind of like, wait, nihilism and totalitarianism. Yeah, totalitarianism. It's like choosing the best possible outcome in any situation. Like that was his mindset this whole time. Like, for example, when he overheard people in the bar talking about how she'd be better dead, and he was like, oh wait, yeah, it would be better if she was dead, right? So he decides to go on with this. This is a very like tricky philosophy. Yeah, philosophy, because people don't know like genuinely like which is the right one and which one's the wrong one, but most people go with this, and Raskolnikov is one of them. And he's like, yeah, he decides to do this, but then after the murder, he eventually realizes this is morally wrong, and sometimes totalitarianism can come clashing with like morals and stuff. Like, even though it is the best possible outcome, would it really be like good morally and stuff? Most of the time, and sometimes it's no. Yeah, you know?
What can you tell about the means, the end justify the means?
The end justified the means.
The way means the way he murdered like that at the ending, for the good of the people. Because he's going to use the money to help, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, he genuinely like, he obviously did do something bad, but he kind of had like a kind of weird good intention to it, because he just wanted to make the world like a little bit of a better place. And plus, he was gonna use this money to help some people as well, since she was obviously quite a little bit rich, you know. So yeah, he did this, but for slightly kind of a good reason, you know, even though the crime he did was really bad. Yeah. So he thought it would be justified by that. So yeah. This is a very good novel, and it's one of the best Russian literatures of all time. And I've heard that people in Russia in school always read this book. Like they never skip it in a lesson at all, because it's a very important book to Russia, and it's one of the greatest books written of all time, in my opinion as well.
Analysis.
Analysis. Raskolnikov and Sonya's personalities really clash between each other, because Sonya is humble, kind, despite her tricky situation, supporting her whole family and all this pressure just to provide, and she's just one girl alone doing this all. Well, Raskolnikov, I mean, he's in an okay place, but he's more of a selfish person, and eventually Sonya's good deeds and intentions eventually like start showing in Raskolnikov, and this results to him confessing to the police. So you could say Sonya was a really important character in this story and has helped contribute to this ending. Yeah. Yeah. And Razumihin, Raskolnikov's friend, is a very kind person and shows kindness to Raskolnikov during his hard times. And even knowing that he was a murderer, he still stayed friends with him. He's just that loyal. And also, he eventually got engaged to Dunya. Yeah, his sister as well. So, and they visit him frequently in Siberia, and Sonya decides to move there as well. Yeah.
Did you enjoy the book?
Yeah, it is quite a long book at 1,000 pages, and I read 800 of it, mostly, yeah. And it was a really good book. It takes a while, and you can hear the thoughts in Raskolnikov's head, like contemplating whether he should what's this called? Confess or not. And it's a very long roller coaster of events, but eventually at the end it's kind of satisfying in a way, and it's just kind of surprising, because most people would think Raskolnikov wouldn't confess, like he has this mindset that makes him like you'd think that he would just choose the best option for him, but he eventually admits to it in the end. And yeah, that's the first time I heard about it. It was kind of shocking to me, honestly. Yeah. So that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.